Welcome, my fellow mush eaters, to another army review for the mod ACW2 for Napoleon Total War. Today we're going over the 1862 6th Corps Army of the Potomac as it showed up to the Battle of Antietam, and then at the end of this I will give my general overview of the Corps itself and what I think. Take that for which you will. Now, I'm going to go back to reviewing by division. I kind of just did it as like a mess last time, but I feel like by division is worth it. So we're discussing it brigade by brigade in each division, and I'm going to do a little bit of background on either infamous people or regiments and that kind of thing. Just to give you, so if you want to pull on that thread and go somewhere else to research it, at least you've got something to take a look at. So, the Army of the Potomac 6th Corps at Antietam was led by Major General William B. Franklin, who we have right here, and is not particularly special. No sideburns, of course. He was one of McClellan's allies at this time in the Army of the Potomac, and that really backstabby Union early war mess of a high command, and he was given high command. So he led the 6th Corps during the Peninsula Campaign, the Maryland Campaign, and the Fredericksburg Campaign. He would resign afterwards because of political infighting with fighting Joe Hooker getting command of the army over him. He was eventually reassigned to the Trans-Mississippi Theater, so we will probably see his generalship unit again when the Red River Campaign is released for ACW2. If it hasn't already, I'm so far behind. So at Antietam, some soldiers in this corps saw combat. Most of them were held in reserve, famously now. So I expect to see some relevant stats from combat experience from the previous campaigns that they had already fought in. An example is not in this division, but in the 2nd Division, you have the Vermont Brigade. And the Vermont Brigade is, they're experienced soldiers. Let's turn this off here. Turn off fire will so they're not shooting at that general. All right. Now, let's get on with the 1st Division, which is what you're looking at in all of its glory, with its 4 brigades: 1st Brigade, 2nd Brigade, 3rd Brigade, and the Artillery Brigade. Now, the 1st Division, 6th Corps, was led by Major General Henry Slocum, which I might add, he was literally described as leading one of the best divisions in the Army of the Potomac. So this better reflect that, because the historical precedent is there that these were fighting men. And Slocum himself becomes one of the best Union generals in the American Civil War. So let's take a look at what's cooking in his 1st Brigade. Now, the 1st Brigade was led by Colonel Alfred Torbett. Now, this lonely colonel would eventually end up commanding the 1st Division of the Cavalry Corps of the Army of the Potomac after Major General John Buford passes away. But for now, let's take a look at this brigade that he has. And this consists of the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th New Jersey, which is the famed New Jersey Brigade, of course. And the 1st New Jersey itself has previously fought at Bull Run, Gaines Mill, and Bull Run Part Deuce. So they are indeed veterans. And let's take a look at their stats for reflection. Okay, so the 1st New Jersey is led by Lieutenant Colonel Mark W. Cullett of Torbett's Brigade. They're bringing 308 men. This is on the largest size. So remember, if you're playing with 8 players, you're going to be on size medium. And these guys are going to be well under kind of the size that you want to take to battle. So something to keep in mind, that if you're going to be playing on huge combat, then this is what the regiment sizes are, okay? So they've got 308 men that they're bringing to the battle. They have rifled weapons. Their accuracy is 26. Their reloading skill is 24. Their melee attack is 11, and their charge bonus is 23. Their defense is 5, and their morale is 13. Something to keep in mind when you have units, which seems to be a lot of Union units where they have very poor defense, and fine morale, like this at 13. I like to keep units with low defense in the second tier, and that will allow them to charge the enemy out if they get past your first tier. And that way you don't have to worry so much about units breaking immediately, like this New Jersey brigade. So, moving on to the second New Jersey, which also served with distinction, and you've got that little bit under here, Kearny's Brigade, Division of the Army of the Potomac. So they have 283 men, rifled weapons, accuracy of 26, reloading skill of 22, which is fair, but is what I consider standard soldier size. So their melee attack is 11, their charge bonus is 13, but that, once again, very poor defense and a fine morale at 13. So taking up an objective, assaulting the enemy, but not defending is this brigade's specialty. All right. The 3rd New Jersey becomes a very distinguished regiment. And they're bringing 291 men, led by Colonel Henry W. Brown. Accuracy of 26, reloading skill of 22. Fine. They've got rifled weapons. Melee attack is 11, charge bonus is 10. It's a little... If I want troops to be part of a famed brigade, then I want to see this melee attack and charge bonus be around the 25. Right? This is 21 total, and I know they're not added together, but when I look at elite units, they seem to, in this mod, they seem to kind of start and end around a combined melee attack and charge bonus of around 25, and then they go upwards. Once again, that defense is 5, and their morale is 13, which seems to be a theme for the New Jersey Brigade. So something to keep in mind if you're going to be playing them, or if you're going to be fighting them. If you think they look like the New Jersey, you might have a advantage with their defense there. All right. Now, the 4th New Jersey has been captured at Gaines Mill. And then were released in a prisoner exchange, but they fought well until the end of the war. So let's see what see if their stats reflect that. All right, led by Colonel William B. Hatch with 331 men, accuracy of 26, reloading skill of 22. Looks like we're just copying and pasting for this. I mean, that's fine. Melee attack is 11, charge bonus is 10, defense is 5, morale 13. Is fine, I suppose. So, just something to think about. This entire brigade, if charged, would leave, just because of how terrible their stats are on the defense. Now, we are going to look at Bartlett's 2nd Brigade, or the 2nd Brigade in the division. And we've got the 5th Maine. Now, Bartlett himself, he was a fine officer. He led a Warriors Brigade. And this is the 5th, 16th New York, or 5th Maine, 16th New York, 27th New York, and 95th Pennsylvania. So let's take a look. So the 5th Maine is led by Colonel Nathaniel Jackson, bringing 299 men to the battle, accuracy of 22, reloading skill of 22, a melee attack of 5, a charge bonus of 4, a defense of 6, and a morale of 10. Now, I mean, I don't know if they're going to make them better, but if you're already down to 300 men and your stats are this bad for melee and charge bonus, then I'm not sure if I buy that. I understand the accuracy and the reloading skill, but this needs to be... This brigade needs to be at this level, and this New Jersey brigade needs to be at a higher tier. Is what I'm going to guess is what needs to happen here. So let's take a look at who's next. 16th New York, led by Lieutenant Colonel Joel Seaver, 343 men. They have rifled weapons. Their accuracy is 17. Their reloading skill is 16. Their melee attack is 4. Their charge bonus is 3. Their defense is 6. And their morale is 11. Now, first of all, this was the Straw Hat Regiment, where they all wore straw hats. But they're veterans of the Overland Campaign, and these numbers look like conscript numbers, not veterans of, battles already. These guys are veterans at this point, and I feel like they need to be treated like them. So some of these stats need to be updated. And I know the mod creators have a lot going on, so give them plenty of time, and, they might come out and be like, no, there's a reason for that, so try not to be too hard on them. Okay, so the 27th New York, they're also veterans at this point. They are led by Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Adams, bringing 550 men to the battle. Accuracy of 19, a reloading skill of 15, and a melee attack of 5, a charge bonus of 3, a defense of 5, a morale of 8. These guys are basically garbage, but they're supposed to be a veteran regiment. So if you even wanted to bring this brigade, you'd have to chevron these guys to be more expensive than what they already are. And you do have room for that in this corps. I'll show you guys an example of what I think a combat-capable 6 Corps in 1862 would look like for the battlefield. You can agree or disagree, but it's just something I'll show at the very end of the episode. All right, we've got the 96th Pennsylvania, led by Colonel Henry L. Cake. 304 men in the battlefield. They've got rifled weapons, accuracy of 18, reloading skill of 17, melee attack of 5, a charge bonus of 3, a defense of 6, and a morale of 12. The 96th Pennsylvania, one of the bravest actions that they're involved in is at Crampton's Gap during the Maryland campaign. And they literally charge out the rebels out of the position by taking a bunch of casualties. I don't see that reflected here. If you wanted to keep their accuracy and reloading skill the same, but I mean their charge bonus should be 20, and their melee attack should be 15 or something, right? They're literally very brave soldiers that will charge under fire, and they did so laterally across the rebel line. So they moved across the rebel line with their whole regiment could be shot at, and then they flanked the rebels and then forced them out from behind a stone wall. Needs to be updated. That may be why there's no background here. But something to take a look at. Now, let's take a look at the 3rd Brigade. And I'm going to be moving on at a clip pace because there's a lot to cover. And I don't want to get bogged down. Now, the 3rd Brigade was led by Brigadier General John Newtown, who was a regular Army officer and a Virginian who did not betray his oath to the Constitution and remained loyal. He would go on to lead Corps Command, Division, and everything in between. So, a solid commander in the Union Army. He helped supervise the defensive works around Washington, D.C. in the early part of the war. Now, 18th New York, where the New York State Rifles had already been in 9 engagements before Antietam. And that's not represented in their unit stats. They've taken the casualties that they have in those 9 engagements, but I'm not seeing what a veteran regiment should look like. Even a just moderately normal veteran regiment. They don't have to have crazy stats. So they're led by Lieutenant George R. Myers, 292 men, a low accuracy, conscript accuracy at 16, and a reloading skill at 16. Melee attack of 4, charge bonus of 3, defense of 5. A moderate morale, but what's the point of taking them if all of their stats are just so bad? Alrighty. 31st New York, led by Lieutenant Colonel Francis H. Pinto, or known as Baxter's Light Guard when they were originally created. They were engaged at Bull Run and in the Peninsula Campaign and have taken moderate casualties. Accuracy of 16, reloading skill of 16, melee attack of 5, charge bonus of 4, defense of 5, morale of 13. Are these guys veterans or are they conscripts? And they're brand new. No unit that fought at Bull Run should have terrible stats because they've already been killing people for a time. Needs to be updated. All right. 32nd New York. Now, this was a 2-year regiment and took about 100 men killed from disease and combat. That does not include discharges. So when we look at these regiments that had, each Union regiment had roughly somewhere between 15 and 2,000 people with replacements that had gone through it at some point. And these guys had some light work initially, but they were in combat. So 397 men, led by Colonel Roderick Matheson. They've got rifled weapons. Their accuracy is 17. Their reloading skill is 15. Their melee attack is 5. Charge bonus of 4. Defense of 5. Morale of 13. Morale is fine. Bring the rest of these numbers up to like 10. Bring these up to 22. Or 21. Something like that. They're veterans. And if they saw these stats, they would be quite offended, I think. Alrighty. 95th Pennsylvania, led by Colonel Gustavus W. Town, with rifled weapons. Now, this is an elite regiment. The 95th Pennsylvania alone has 3 Medal of Honor winners. Now, 339 men into the battle. They've got rifled weapons, accuracy of 27, reloading skill of 25, a melee attack of 13, a charge bonus of 13, a defense of 15, and a morale of 11. This is the stat that I expect to see for a just under elite unit. I think the accuracy is fine. The reloading skill is fine. If we want them to look like the elite regiment here, the elite Zouave regiment that they are, then I think this needs to be closer. You see how this is adding up? This is 26. Keep that in mind when you don't actually add up melee and charge bonus, but it gives me a good gauge on where units should be. So if their melee attack and their charge bonus is like under 30, I'm like, okay. If it's under 20, they're garbage. So, alrighty. Great stats, always take the 95th, that's for sure. And the enemy's going to know, if they zoom in and they see these guys. They look just like regular infantry, but if they zoom in and see that they're the 95th, then they'll know better. Alrighty. And these guys were called the Goslins Zouaves. And they fought off Wheat's battalion and then killed Major Wheat. Like, one of these guys shot Major Wheat and his, Louisiana Tigers. So, glad to see that they're represented well. Now, let's look at the artillery brigade. Quite extensive, very large, lots of cannons here. And this artillery brigade, at this point, was led by Captain Emory Upton, which, if you are a student of the American Civil War, you would know he goes on to make a name for himself later on. He would lead a division at Spotsylvania Courthouse, at the Muleshoe. He is the general that designed that special rushing block tactic where it was just going to stack regiments on top of each other and rush straight into the enemy to try and overwhelm them. He would end the war as a brevet major general. Now, I think a centerpiece to the 6th Corps to take is the Maryland Light Battery A, led by Captain John W. Wolcott. 8 guns, 3-inch battery, 96 men, firepower of 384, a range of 915, a high accuracy at 65. The reloading skill is 30. They have a very high morale so that they can shoot it out with other artillery pieces. These guys should be the centerpiece of your artillery when it comes to taking the 6th Corps. And the reason why I feel that way is because when you get all 8 guns out here, you can have them immediately start firing on the enemy due to their range and accuracy, while you move up your smaller batteries for closer supporting fire. And if the enemy is too busy dealing with this guy, they're not... I mean, you can overwhelm any enemy's 4-gun battery with just this alone. It does make it more unwieldy, does make it a larger target for enemy battery to converge on, but I feel like as a base fire support, this is excellent. Now, the Massachusetts Light Battery A, commanded by Captain Josiah Porter, I think these guys were some of the 75,000 volunteers that Lincoln called up. So they've been around since the beginning. Their firepower is 180. Their range is 810. Their accuracy is 65. Their reloading skills is 30. They've got 6 guns. Napoleons are great. I like taking smaller Napoleons, 4, 3, 2, even 1 gun, and bringing it up to the front to blast the enemy at close range. I've had moderate success. Sometimes the guns get knocked out right away, and sometimes the guns break that area of the enemy's line, which is great. We have the... Oh, what am I looking at? Oh, the New Jersey Light Battery, commanded by Captain William Hexamer. 6-gun, 10-pound Parrott's battery. Firepower, 156. Range is 925, which is good, but their accuracy is lower at 55. And the reloading skill is just 20. So a slower reload, a longer range. But is that range... Yeah, slightly longer than the 3-inch guns. But I've never seen Parrots and got scared. I never thought... I never cared. I would just shoot at them with the 3 inches anyway. Okay. Last but not least, for 1st Division, we have the 2nd United States Battery D, commanded by Lieutenant Edward B. Williston. 6 guns, 12-pound Napoleon battery, firepower 180, range of 810, accuracy of 65, which is good. You always want 65. Reloading skill of 30. All right, not bad. But if I was going to take this, the only guns I'm going to take is the 8-gun 3-inch battery. I'm going to leave these guys at home, and we'll take a look at what 2nd Division has to bring to the table. But if you wanted to just take 1st Division, in multiplayer, you can only take 18 guns, so remember that. But if I remember correctly, I had about $6,000 left over after I had purchased this. So you could fill out with 2 or 3 more brigades. You could take out some of these units and replace them with more maneuverable artillery units from 2nd Division. We'll take a look at that here in just a moment. Alrighty. Now we're going to take a look at the 2nd Division, which was commanded by Major General William Smith, also known to many as Baldy, although nobody has their hat off, so you can't see his bald head. He has a checkered past in how well he performs as a combat leader. He performed pretty okay during the seven days battles at Antietam. But let's take a look at his 1st Brigade, which, if you know your history, is led by future Corps Commander Brigadier General Winfield Scott Hancock, consisting of the 6th Maine, 43rd New York, 49th, and 137th Pennsylvania, and the 5th Wisconsin. So let's take a look at these battle-hardened troops. Now, the 6th Maine, not Wisconsin, are Peninsula Campaign veterans. So let's take a look. They are commanded by Colonel Hiram Burnham, 329 men, accuracy of 23, reloading skill of 22. Excellent. Melee attack of 10, a charge bonus of 9. Sure, a lot better than what we've seen before. A defense of 14, and a morale of 15, which I really like. I really like to see that. A high morale and defense means these guys can shoot it out all day. Alrighty. Now, the 43rd New York suffers almost 700 casualties during the conflict. So it better be represented here, and it's not. 390 men, led by Major John Wilson. They have rifled weapons, accuracy of 23, reloading skill 22, which is fine. But a melee attack and charge bonus of 6 and 6, and a defense of 10 and 12. Interesting. Interesting what we're seeing with some brigade here. So, I would like to see maybe this bumped up a little bit more. Doesn't have to be a lot. Just respectful that they've killed people before. Alrighty. The big old 137th Pennsylvania. They were a 9-month regiment. And their first engagement was at South Mountain. So normally you would expect them to be green, but here it's kind of the opposite. They have 681 men, an accuracy of 19, a reloading skill of 22, a melee attack of 9, a charge bonus of 15, a defense of 12, and a morale of 13. So, doing pretty good. Let's take a look. 137th, 5th Wisconsin. Led by Colonel Amasa Cobb, bringing 397 men, all with rifled weapons, accuracy of 20, reloading skill of 22. Cool. Melee attack of 9, charge bonus of 15. I'm starting to see something here. These brigade differences. A defense of 12 and a morale of 13. Cool. Love it. Taking them. Absolutely. Now we've got the 49th Pennsylvania here at the very end. Commanded by Lieutenant Colonel William Brisbane, bringing 317 men, an accuracy of 26, a reloading skill of 28. These guys are vets. I love it. A melee attack of 15. That's nuts. A charge bonus of 5, a defense of 7, and a morale of 12. Cool. I would still take them. That's a pretty good defense to get over. And also what is it? The 5th Wisconsin would end the war as just 3 companies. They had been reduced. They get reduced even further than this. It's pretty nuts. All right. So now let's take a look at the 2nd Vermont, part of the vaunted Vermont Brigade. And this brigade, the Vermont Brigade, better have the stats to back up their 21 Medals of Honor that I could find publicly. There might be more. But the Vermont Brigade is the brigade that you take every time you're playing as the 6th Corps. To not take them is lunacy. And let's take a look at why. The 2nd Vermont had 5 Medal of Honor winners. Commanded by Major James H. Walbridge, 307 men, accuracy of 26, reloading skill of 27. Excellent. These guys are veterans. Melee attack of 12, charge bonus of 12, defense of 12, and morale of 10. Their morale needs to be higher. They're clearly excellent troops. They're clearly having the ability to go out and fight. So give me a higher morale on the Vermont troops, please. They should almost die before they leave the field, I feel like. Okay, we've got the 3rd Vermont, commanded by Colonel Breed and Hyde, commanding 322 men, rifled weapons, accuracy of 25, reloading skill of 27, melee attack of 12, charge bonus of 10, defense of 12, and a morale of 10. So, pretty good. The 3rd Vermont has 6 Medal of Honor winners. So does that morale seem like 6 morale or 6 Medal of Honor winners came out of it? I'm not so sure. Maybe somewhere between 12 and 15. I would like to see that. We'll see. The 4th Vermont has another 5 Medal of Honor winners, commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Charles B. Stoughton, 372 men, accuracy of 25, reloading skill of 25, rifled weapons, melee attack of 10, charge bonus of 9, defense of 12, and a morale of 11. Seems like a standard. It just seems like their morale needs to be higher. I'm not sure if all of the other stats need to be different, but the morale, I feel like, needs to be higher. Based off what I have seen with Confederate regiments that are elite. Alrighty. The 5th Vermont has another 4 Medal of Honor winners, commanded by Colonel Lewis A. Grant, who has 366 men in this regiment, an accuracy of 25, a reloading skill of 25, a melee and charge bonus of 9 each, defense of 10, and a morale of 11. Still not sure if I agree with the morale here. The 6th Vermont has just 1 Medal of Honor winner, commanded by Major Oscar L. Tuttle, bringing 402 men to the battlefield, accuracy of 24, reloading skill of 24, rifled weapons, melee attack of 9, charge bonus of 8, defense of 10, and a morale of 12. So, let's see. The regiment was mustered into federal service on October 15th, 1861 at St. Albans, Vermont. It was engaged in or present at Warwick Creek, Lee's Mill, Williamsburg, Golding's Farm, Savage Station, and White Oak Swamp during the Peninsula Campaign, Crampton's Gap, and Antietam during the 1862 Maryland Campaign, and that's before. So, I don't know. Maybe we'll see these guys again, and there'll be a more elite brigade. I'm not sure. But I feel like 12 is the baseline for their morale, and I think that's iffy. Alrighty. Now, the 3rd Brigade starts with the 7th Maine. This brigade was commanded by Colonel William Irwin. And the 7th Maine, commanded by Major Thomas W. Hyde, is bringing 281 men, an accuracy of 21, a reloading skill of 22, a melee attack of 8, and a charge bonus of 8. All right, the 7th Maine, rifled weapons, 281 men, led by Major Thomas W. Hyde, accuracy and reloading skill of 21 and 22, melee attack of 8, charge bonus of 8, defense of 6, morale of 12. They barely scrape into it. Okay. The 20th New York is a unit that you bring to every battle. I feel like you absolutely should always bring them. Their stats are good. This is what elite stats look like. And this is what I want the Vermont Brigade to look like. And this is what I want the New Jersey Brigade to look like. They should be this good. 788 men, commanded by Colonel Ernst von Wegsack. Rifled weapons, accuracy of 27, reloading skill of 23, melee attack of 12, charge bonus of 15, defense of 12, and a morale of 13. These guys are going to be fighting all day. All day. To not bring them is folly. Such a big regiment you could place in the middle of your line and force the enemy to move against it. And if your general was right behind it, oh man, good luck. Alrighty. The 33rd New York, led by Lieutenant Colonel Joseph W. Corning, with 380 men, an accuracy of 19, a reloading skill of 22, bringing rifled weapons, a melee attack of 9, a charge bonus of 14. Charge bonus is nice. Defense is 8. Morale is 10. Alrighty. 49th New York. Commanding Lieutenant Colonel William C. Alberger with 268 men. Accuracy of 21. Reloading skill of 22. A melee attack and a charge bonus of 8 each. Pretty bad. A defense of 10 and a high morale of 14, which is nice. I certainly like it. Okay. The 77th New York, commanding Captain Nathan S. Babcock with 177 men. Too small to bring into any real battle for any reason, but I'll show you how I would use them. Their accuracy is 21, their reloading skill is 22, and their melee and charge bonus is both 9. Their defense is 10, and their morale is 13. So, okay. Fine. Let's see if we can do better and how we might upgrade that. Now let's take a look at the Artillery Brigade. This is the Maryland Light Battery B, commanded by Lieutenant Theodore J. Vanman. 6 guns, 3-inch battery. You know, if you combine this 6 guns with those 8 guns, you've got a pretty mean battery setup that can pick out one target at a time and destroy it. Firepower, 288, range of 915, accuracy is 65. Bring them, if you want. Next up is New York Light 1st Battery, commanded by Captain Andrew Cowitt. 4 guns, 3 inches. This is the last set of guns that you should bring, right? Firepower of 192, range of 915, accuracy of 65. That accuracy of 65 versus 55 makes a difference. Then we have the 5th United States Battery F, Lieutenant Leonard Martin, 6-gun, 10-pound Parrott's Battery, 72 men, 6 operational guns, firepower of 156, a range of 925, an accuracy of 55, and a reloading skill of 20. Things might have changed, but I've never brought Parrott's guns unless I have no other choice. And I'm just trying to reach out and touch someone. Alrighty. We do also have the 20th New York Sharpshooters. Range of 220. Accuracy of 19. Reloading skill of 22. Just terrible everything, but a decent morale. And the 27th New York, which also has terrible stats, but obviously you're going to have them shooting at the enemy to try and pick them off one by one. I would say also take the 77th New York because they have very good stats for shooting, or decent stats, I should say, and turn them into a skirmisher regiment. And I will show you why. So next up is going to be taking a look at a 6th Corps that I might bring to a battlefield. And I'm going to say it's a 2v2, so there's going to be 4 players, and it's a constrained map, so to speak. So let's take a look at that, and then I'll talk about what I think of the 6th Corps. Alrighty, welcome to the 6th Corps preparing for battle. Now, there's lots of different ways that you can do this. There's lots of things that you need to think about depending upon the size of the battle that you're going to be fighting. If you're going to be fighting with 3 more comrades, you have a lot to talk about. If you're going to be fighting one-on-one, then you need to be very cognizant of the type of corps that you bring to the fight. The 6th Corps has no cavalry. And that puts you at a distinct disadvantage for protecting things like your artillery. If I can get some cav on top of your artillery and I have to sacrifice them to do it, I will take that gamble every single time if it knocks your guns out. So I have this arrayed in just how I would go. Let's say, I don't know, it's a no cav game or something like that. I'm going to put my artillery in the front, and as soon as the game starts, I'm going to have them go out to exactly where I want them to go, which is all just kind of right here in the front, holding down the flanks or whatever, sending off the guns. Now, let me show you what I decided to do with these guys. I took the Vermont Brigade and I put them in the rear, and I put my not so great guys who have been chevroned up. And you can see I've got multiple units with chevrons, so you can decide what you want to bring or not bring, but I felt like it might be important just to chevron these guys just a little bit. Have them here. And then when the fighting gets too much, just take them out and replace them with the Vermont. Like, give them a break. Let them come back into the fight 10 minutes later. But have them go up and get engaged with the enemy, and then you can replace them with the Vermont Brigade that's right behind them. Now, with the New Jersey Brigade, I took a look at the structure of some of the units that we had, and what I wanted my New Jersey Brigade to do is to be mobile and to be on the attack. Now, yeah, they're almost there. So in front of them, I put a skirmisher unit, which will go out and clear the way, maybe engage other skirmisher units. Definitely engage Cav. If your skirmishers come against Cav, they're going to get run down. Or shot up, or both. But they are good as like little sacrifice units, or to peck away at the enemy. You can put them on the flank. And oftentimes, I have noticed other players, other generals, will not go after these guys, skirmisher units, because they're not enough to deal with. So sometimes you can get them just racking up kills on the enemy like it's no tomorrow. All right. So for the New Jersey Brigade, I put them in the back because I want them to be on the move. That's what their stats represent, right? They've got a very low defense. But in front of them, I have just 2 regiments that are going to be holding down this portion of the line. The 137th and the 20th New York. And the reason why is because they have great stats and high number counts for being able to take casualties, and they will be able to give as much as they get. So having these guys, if these guys get engaged, I mean, they're the same length as a lot of brigades that you will be fighting, and more accurate soldiers will take a lot of casualties out of here, but this is a lot to chew through. And while they're being chewed through, maybe you want to move, I'll throw them this way, your units around or something. It's just something to think about how you want to use these units when they come into combat. Not every person in the 788 men is going to be able to fire unless they're on a hill, which frequently you'll find yourself, or maybe being able to bring all of their guns to bear at once. It's just something to think about, but not all of these guys, only like the first 4 ranks are going to be shooting in open line combat. So if you could find something that might give them just a little bit of a larger edge so that more of the troops can fire, or if you want to dissuade the enemy from trying to take an objective, you can launch an attack with this division. Have your general in to reinforce. But the smaller New Jersey regiments, you're going to be able to really get in on flanking the enemy, being able to move. I have noticed it does take some time for people to recognize, or they become indecisive about units. There's never a right time to move a unit that's engaged in combat. Just do it. Just do it. As soon as you see the enemy flank you, just move them out of the way. Just pull them back, because they're going to take even more casualties if you don't. But a prime example of being able to move a smaller brigade around a larger one that's holding it down, using those fire and maneuver tactics so favored by the U.S. military. And of course, you can really stretch them out. I know in one battle I played against a guy, he stretched out his regiments and kind of fooled me into thinking that there were more. I should have stopped and like counted, but I was too busy clicking and overviewing the army and so on and so forth, so to pay attention. All right. So a mobile wing on one side, a Determined wing on the other. Artillery's already up to get ready to fire. And we have our skirmishers to lead the way here. I like to keep one reserve line of troops that get passed out. So if one side of the line seems to be weakening, or there's more enemy troops showing up on that side, then I'm going to immediately start moving these guys over. And so, as you can see, I chose to give these guys some upgrades. Obviously, I thought it was important. I've got the 95th Pennsylvania here. I want a good unit in the back that I can plug a hole with to save the day. The 95th is going to be an excellent regiment to do that. And of course, you have the pretty decent stats of the 43rd, the 6th Maine, the 49th. This is a good brigade, more like a division, to put together. 3 brigades each. You could have them split off on the wings to go fight, or fight as all one, or however you want to do it. But the 6th Corps can build itself a nice little army to be able to fight the enemy off. But no cav. So that's what I really like about the 6th Corps. I kind of showing you here. I feel it's mostly correct with the experience that the troops have in the previous engagements. I think some of them need to be tuned up. And I'm not sure if that's because some of the units have been left behind, or if they need updating, or what that might be. It's just my opinion on some of these brigades. That they have like conscript stats. Don't agree with that at all. So I hope that gets cleaned up at some point. Now, other than that, I find the Corps you take, needs a little bit of troop upgrading for some of these units. Just do it. You get to decide which ones. You could have the Vermont be elite. You could take all of these chevrons, remove them, and then stack it all onto one brigade. And just have like a real elite corps. Or you could also get rid of a whole division and have a smaller division that's just incredibly elite if you want. There's all sorts of... I've played guys in the Light Brigade who do that. So just remember, your artillery sections are fine. Bring the 3-inch guns. But you have no cav to protect them. So you're not going to be moving far beyond your artillery unless you have cav that can protect your arty, or you have maybe a grand battery put together with your team and they're protecting with cav. By all means, feel free to leave a regiment or two behind to, keep it respectful in case the enemy tries to get there. You will have issues taking the 6th Corps into multiplayer battles if it's 1v1. Always bring a corps with cavalry if you're playing 1v1. If you're playing 2v2, always bring a corps with cavalry. If you're doing it larger, I'm going to say 3 and 4, if you want to play the middle corps, the middle of the field, just like how my troops are set up here, and you want to advance up the battlefield, this is going to be great. But just be aware you'll probably be taking fire if you go outside of the line of attack of the rest of the army, of the other divisions or corps that are on your sides. Just be aware. You don't want to isolate yourself. It takes infantry in this game so long to get anywhere because they're so slow. As they should be, because this is a lot of ground to cover. And yeah, with that, my friends, that's my review of the ACW2 1862 6th Corps Army of the Potomac. If you have any questions, or if you want to make any notes or comments, leave them down below in the comments so I can hear from you. I absolutely love it, and I enjoy the criticism just fine. So with that being said, I will catch you in the next episode, trying to keep these two as short as possible because of how long it takes to review these divisions. So I will see you on the battlefield, Mush Eaters. Thank you for watching, and have a great one. And if you're watching this on the 4th, on October 24th, then the 72nd Indiana Chapter 18 podcast episode will be coming out tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that if you're a podcast listener. And if you have not been listening to the podcast, I just would like to let you know that I read a regimental history first, and then I talk about it at the end. So if you just want to hear the regimental history, you can bug out, after 30 or 40 minutes. You don't have to listen to me talk, but if you want to hear me talk about the episode, then by all means you can. I know chapter 18 is long. It took me an hour to record, so it's probably going to take me about, another hour to talk about it, maybe a little less. So it's just chapter by chapter. The 72nd Indiana is a very interesting regimental history. So I know we will get to the Lightning Brigade when we start looking at the armies of the West and how you can effectively use them and how they were effectively used as well. We'll talk about that. But with that, my friends, I have gone on too long. Thanks for listening, and have a great weekend. Bye-bye. Darkness consumes the day.